So what should you focus on to make 2025 your best year yet? It's that time of year. Everyone's thinking about New Year's resolutions, how things can be different than they were in the previous year. And a client of mine was asking me recently, Yuri, what do you focus on? Like, what do you recommend I focus on to, achieve my goals this year? So my conversation with him really started with, well, talk to me about what's important to you. Like, what are you actually trying to achieve this coming year? And he told me what it was, and I was like, cool. So is this the first time you've wanted this outcome, or have you wanted this previously and it just hasn't been achieved yet? He's like, no, I've been trying to achieve it for a couple of years. So I was like, cool, I can relate, because in my 20s, I was like, I'm gonna be a millionaire by 30, and that didn't happen. And so we shared a little bit of this kind of conversation around, well, what were you doing previously that was in line with achieving that outcome, but for some reason you kind of just fell off track? And this is the conversation that I want to have with you today, is that if you have an outcome, if you have a goal, you have to ask yourself, are my actions in alignment with that goal? Because a lot of people say they want the prize, very few people are willing to pay the price. And I'm talking about price in the sense of like the effort, the sacrifice, the work. That's the price. It's not the financial price. So my advice to him was less about setting a New Year's resolution. I said, I don't set New Year's resolutions. I mean, I set objectives on a daily basis that are always in line with my bigger vision. So it doesn't matter if it's August 23rd or January 1st, it's all the same to me. I don't get all really ramped up at the end of the year for okay, this is the moment, this is where everything's gonna change. I'm gonna start the year. I'm I don't give a shit. September 4th, it's the same conversation. So the key here that I focus on, at least, is just consistent small actions. Most people fail in life because they put all of their eggs, all of their hope into this one thing. They're I'm gonna wait until January. That's when everything's gonna be perfect. Everything's gonna be aligned. It's gonna be perfect. And then it's not. And then they're well, yeah, then it's not convenient enough. Or they're all jazzed up and they're gung-ho and they start, but they never finish. And statistically, I think we know the stats are pretty horrendous in terms of people sticking with New Year's resolutions. And I think part of the problem with that is because they're not focused on changing who they are. If you want to be consistent, and that's the key word, consistent with how you show up in life and in your business, your results will take care of themselves. What most people are looking to do is do something dramatically different for a short amount of time to expect miracles. It's the quick fixes, it's the diets, it's the supplements. There's no habit change. There's no skill change. And so going back to my client's question, it was really around the sense of where are you not consistent? Where have you not been consistent previously? Because if you've wanted this objective and you haven't been there, or you haven't achieved it, then it's simply a matter of you haven't been consistent enough with the path to get you there, assuming you had the right path to begin with. Either you don't do enough of the work, it's not good enough, or you're not consistent. And so when we start to look at that, we can start to think really being honest with ourselves, where have I dropped the ball? And I've dropped the ball many times in my life. I've started more things that I can remember that I haven't finished. And I really have to remind myself, dude, you got to stay consistent with this. And consistency is easy when you have motivation. That's why January is a relatively easy time of year. But consistency is harder when you don't feel like doing it. But that's what separates the wheat from the chaff. That's what separates the winners from everyone else. It's being able to do what you need to do regardless of how you feel. Regardless of how you feel. Your feelings do not matter. You have to do what you need to do to move in the direction of your future desire. Because if you allow your feelings to hold you back, you'll never get anywhere. Now, I'm not negating the importance of emotion, right? If you feel fear, that's a signal to your body to better prepare yourself, stuff like that. But feelings, I'm talking about I don't feel like doing it today. I'm tired. I'd rather do this later. That is loser speak. And this is #winning. So when I say you do what you need to do in spite of how you feel, that's called discipline. Discipline builds consistency. Consistency creates results. Period. So when I look at just my journey to where I am now, the reason I think it took me so long was that I was not consistent in important areas, for instance, for my business, where I should have been. Number one, I had the wrong roadmap. In fact, I had no roadmap. So that was problem number one. Problem number two is when I did have somewhat of a roadmap, I started something, but then I didn't see results quick enough. So I was like, I'm going to go on to something else. And this is because I was making rookie mistakes. And so you have to identify what are the actions that are going to get you to where you want to go. And here's the problem is that if you're not where you want to be, then you probably don't know what those actions are. And that's why people hire coaches, because you need to work with someone who's already been there and done that so they can tell you what to do, how to do it well, and then you do it over and over and over again to build the skill and the habit. So what I would like you to consider as we kind of kick off this year is thinking through where can you be more consistent in your life? What are the small daily actions you can take that will compound over time? And I would encourage you to think about every aspect of your life. Do you make your bed every morning? Do you brush your teeth every morning? Do you take care of the basics? Because how you do anything is how you do everything. And I'm not saying you have to have a million things to do on a daily basis, but there's probably a few when it comes to your business. I'm talking about 1, 2, or maybe 3 that if you do these consistently will change the game for you. As an example, in our HBA coaching program, there are 4 things, only 4 things. How many? 4 things that our clients need to do once we've helped them launch their pipeline. Not 50, 4 things to build skill and habit. And I had a client 2 years ago, and she was asking me, Yuri, like I'm spending 8 hours a day working on this stuff. And I'm like, what are you doing? What are you spending 8 hours on? Because so there's 4 things, which I'll tell you about in a second, but the only thing outside of those are 2 things, which is discovery calls and coaching clients. That's it. So if you are working 8 hours a day, I'm really hoping most of those hours are spent taking calls with potential clients, or a few of those hours are coaching clients. And that was not the case in her situation. And I'm like, what are you doing with the 8 hours? Because here are the 4 things that will move the needle. Now, again, specifically for our HBA clients who are scaling beyond 10K per month, you launch your pipeline, which is our client getting system, which largely works on autopilot once it's launched. And then every morning for 90 minutes, you do the following. You write, and that can be 1 page. It can be an ad, it can be an email, it can be a social post. You write to your perfect client. But Yuri, I don't like marketing. Cool. Well, stay broke, okay? You have to write. You have to get better at communication. 2 is you work on your selling skills. You practice your script, you role play by yourself, you walk down the street like a crazy person, and you talk to yourself as if you're talking to a prospect, or you role play with an actual human. Very important. Number 1 and number 2, build skills. Communication is the most important skill you can build. Number 3 is you review your metrics every day. You review your critical numbers. You look at your bank accounts as an example, and then the critical numbers you look at in your perfect client pipeline. And then 4 is you add some type of value to your audience. So remember that like 1 page you wrote? Well, that can be a social post. You can send that as an email every single day for the rest of your life, period. But that sounds like a lot of work. Well, I mean, is it really a lot of work to spend 60 to 90 minutes every morning in creation of your future? I don't think so. And if it sounds like a lot of work, then by all means, please keep doing what you're doing. And if you're like many of the people that come to work with us, maybe you're already spending 90 hours a week working one-on-one with patients. So if you want to escape that fucking hellhole, then it's about developing skills and habits and being consistent on things that actually matter in your business, not wasting time with minutia that will keep you stuck for the rest of your life. So that, my friend, is what I'd recommend you consider to make this year your best one yet. If you've enjoyed this, hit subscribe. Let me know which insight in this video has resonated most with you in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next one. I want to share an interesting reminder that I think will be very useful for you. I am a firm believer, and you might already understand this, but whether you apply it might be different, that the best coach that you have is your gut. It's your intuition.